Hey guys, welcome to BP, the Bible Perspective. Is God using coronavirus to judge America? Now, before I answer that, please like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or a comment, add it in the comment section below. All comments are welcome. Well, I was listening to a so-called Bible prophecy expert, and he's probably well known in his circles, and he basically suggested, because they never really speak plainly, and maybe for legal reasons they have to speak in general, but it was highly suggestive that the coronavirus, as he put it, was a day of reckoning. And he tied it to maybe a number of abortions committed in America, that God was using the coronavirus to judge America. Now, this is just kind of plain nonsense. It is. It's really nonsense, really, to suggest that. Before I get more into that, let me do my update, because as I often say, the coronavirus is a terrible infection or epidemic that's spreading not just in America, but around the world. To date, there are 526,000 reported cases of coronavirus. That means people who have tested positive for coronavirus. There have been 23,000 deaths. And if you wanted to say the good news is 123,000 have recovered from the coronavirus. Those are worldwide stats, okay? Now, when we break down to the kind of world chart, guess what, y'all? The U.S. has now become the number one, passing China. 82,000 reported cases of coronavirus, okay? And of course, with 13,000 plus new cases, 1,100 deaths. Now, I'm going to come back to this because maybe, I don't know if he was using this chart to make his assessment. But we break it down, of course, Italy is third with 80,000 cases, with about 6,000 new cases. Now, again, we go back to China. We go back to China with 81,000 cases with no new reported cases. Now, I said this chart of new reported cases is not almost always reliable because it can change from day to day. In other words, China didn't have any new reported cases today. Yesterday they did have reported cases, and tomorrow they may have reported cases. What is more important is the recovery and why. In other words, what has China done to stifle the spread of the disease? I still don't know the answer to that, by the way. I just haven't got a chance to really look into it. But those are the two questions I would have. In other words, have they found a vaccination, or are they just keeping people isolated? Well, again, number one has become, the U.S. has become number one. But back to my original question, is God then judging America? And as this Bible preacher suggested, that because it's a day of reckoning, because of the sins. The problem with this is, number one, people are trying to speak for God when they really shouldn't speak for God. The Bible tells us in this day is the day of grace, number one. So what God is saying to America is come to Jesus Christ. The problem is that there are too many people who try to corral God into a political camp. And that's the problem, where you get this warped sense of view. To say that Corona is a judgment of God against America, now you have to answer, why are innocent people being affected? Let me just show you, for example, the nature of this disease. I think many of you might know it. I came very close. In fact, I had received a phone call that said a person on my job tested positive for coronavirus. Now, just to kind of show you, I was in close proximity to that person. And I kind of thought a lot of people were in close proximity to this person because of they work on our particular job. They work into the storage house. So on our campus where we take care of the mentally challenged, they live in houses and stuff. People are always coming in. It's kind of a central hub, right? People come there for supplies, to get supplies. Food delivery trucks deliver there. You can see that if one person tests positive, and all of a sudden, all of those people could come in contact with that one person who has tested positive. Now, as it turns out, by the way, it was a false report that she did not test positive. But they still took the precautions of closing it down, sanitizing it, and all of that. Here's my point. First of all, to say that God is using Corona to judge America, and then to say that he's using the coronavirus to judge for a particular sin, maybe the abortion or gay rights. And that's a problem because here's what you got to look at. Are there other sins that God is not concerned about? For example, how about 400 years of slavery on this land? God wasn't mad about that. How about 100 years of Jim Crow? God wasn't mad about that. We could go on and on and on and about stuff that we are not aware of. How about, for example, how America in their foreign policy has treated other nations and has caused kind of death and carnage to other nations? What am I talking about? These are things that we learn after the fact. But one of the reasons why a lot of the Middle Eastern people hate us is because they blame us for meddling into their affairs. And America was good at that. Because here, until 9/11, we was good at saying, hey, whatever y'all want to do over there. Well, they got mad and then, of course, came here. And, of course, we have to have now 24/7 terrorist watch. Why? Because of our foreign policy. I mean, there's a lot of things we don't know, and maybe our ignorance is bliss in this particular case about the dealings and the dirty dealings of America. And so, let me just say this. I think that we want to be very careful about blaming, assigning God, saying that God is judging one sin versus another. A lot of innocent people are being infected by coronavirus, not just gays or people who commit abortion. And let me go a step further and say this, that remember, God has his hand of welcome, his hand of bidding them, even abortionists, even gays, that Jesus died for them. Now, there is going to come a day of reckoning. There's going to come a day of judgment when God will judge the earth, when God will judge the world for its sin, and namely its rejection of Jesus Christ. Understand this, that the sinful behavior of people are always due to the very fact that they reject God's remedy for their sin, Jesus Christ. Now, when we talk about God trying to pinpoint or corral God into a political agenda, God is not a Republican. He's not a conservative. He's not progressive. He doesn't fit in any one of your molds, any one of your talking points. He is just. And if he's going to judge America for homosexuality or abortion, certainly would he not judge America for slavery and Jim Crow and somehow his treatment of the Native Americans and his treatment of foreign policy, on and on and on. No, let God be the judge, and let us just stick to obeying him first and foremost. Let us stick to how we treat one another. Let's also be careful in this coronavirus, to be careful to make sure that we are not going to be contaminated by constantly washing our hands, keeping distance from people until they have a vaccination. And once they get the vaccination, then guess what? We can pretty much say, guess what? We can breathe a sigh of relief. But until then, be careful, be safe. That's my perspective. And as always, like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. Till next time, I'll see you then.